Hello viewers, welcome to the second session of Bookmark, Reading Wings of Fire Between the Lines. Now it's getting interesting. This session is about teachers and circumstances that inspired Dr. Kalam. Now you will see Dr. Kalam taking shape. Let's move ahead. Dr. Kalam says that his teacher, Ayyadurai Solomon, was an ideal guide for an eager young mind that was yet uncertain of the possibilities and alternatives that lay before it. He made his students feel very comfortable in the class in his warm and open-minded attitude. He used to say that a good student could learn more from a bad teacher than a poor student from even a skilled teacher. During my stay at Ramanathapuram, my relationship with him grew beyond that of teacher and pupil. In his company, I learned that one could exercise enormous influence over the events of one's own life. Ayyadurai Solomon used to say, to succeed in life and achieve results, you must understand and master three mighty forces: desire, belief, and expectation. Ayyadurai Solomon, who later became a reverend, taught me that before anything I wanted could happen, I had to desire it intensely and be absolutely certain it would happen. To take an example from my own life, I had been fascinated by the mysteries of sky and the flight of birds from early childhood. I used to watch cranes and seagulls soar into sky and longed to fly. Simple provincial boy though I was convinced that one day I too would soar into the skies. Ayyadurai Solomon was a great teacher because he instilled in all the children a sense of their own worth. Solomon raised my self-esteem to a high point and convinced me, the son of a parent who had not had the benefit of education, that I too could aspire to become whatever I wished. By the time I completed my education in Schwartz, I was a confident boy. The decision to go in for further education was taken without a second thought. To us in those days, the awareness of possibilities for a professional education did not exist. Higher education simply meant going to college. The nearest college was at Tiruchirappalli, called Trichy for short. In 1950, I arrived at St. Joseph's College, Trichy, to study for intermediate examination. I was not a bright student in terms of examination grades, but thanks to my two buddies back in Rameshwaram, I had acquired a practical bent of mind. I stayed on St. Joseph's campus for 4 years and shared my room with two others. One was Orthodox Iyengar from Srirangam and the other Syrian Christian from Kerala. And three of us had a wonderful time together. When I was in the final year at St. Joseph's, it was around this time that I developed a great interest in physics. The lessons on subatomic physics at St. Joseph's by my physics teachers introduced me to the concept of half-life period and the matters related to radioactive decay of substances. When I joined the BSc degree course at St. Joseph's, I was unaware of any other option of higher education, nor did I have any information about career opportunities available to students of science. Only after obtaining BSc degree did I realize that physics was not my subject. I had to go into engineering to realize my dreams. I could have joined engineering course long ago, right after finishing my intermediate course. I told myself, better late than never, applying for admission into Madras Institute of Technology, regarded as the crown jewel of technical education in South India at that time. In the course of my education at MIT, 3 teachers shaped my thinking. Their combined contributions formed the foundation on which I later built my professional career. These 3 teachers were Professor Sponder, Professor K.E.V. Pandalay, and Professor Narsingha Rao. Each one of them had very distinct personalities, but they shared a common impulse, the capacity to feed their students intellectual hunger by sheer brilliance and untiring zeal. Professor Sponder taught me technical aerodynamics. He was an Austrian with a rich practical experience in aeronautical engineering. During the Second World War, he had been captured by Nazis and imprisoned in a concentration camp. Understandably, he had developed a very strong dislike for Germans. Incidentally, the aeronautical department was headed by a German, Professor Walter. Another well-known professor, Dr. Kurt Tank, was a distinguished aeronautical engineer who had designed the German single-seater fighter plane, an outstanding combat aircraft of the Second World War. Dr. Tank later joined Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, HAL in Bangalore, and was responsible for the design of India's first jet fighter, the HF-24 Marut. Professor Sponder preserved his individuality and maintained high professional standards. He was always calm, energetic, and in total control of himself. He kept abreast of the latest technologies and expected his students to do the same. I consulted him before opting for aeronautical engineering. He told me that one should never worry about one's future prospects. Instead, it was more important to lay sound foundations, to have sufficient enthusiasm and an accompanying passion for one's chosen field of study. Professor Sponder used to observe that the trouble with the Indians was not that they lacked educational opportunities or industrial infrastructure. The trouble was in their failure to discriminate between disciplines and to rationalize their choices. Why aeronautics? Why not electrical engineering, and why not mechanical engineering? I myself would like to tell all novitiating engineering students that when they choose their specialization, the essential point is to consider whether the choice articulates their inner feelings and aspirations. Aeronautics is a fascinating subject, containing within it the promise of freedom. The great difference between freedom and escape, between motion and movement, between slide and flow, are the secrets of this science. My teachers revealed these truths to me. Through their meticulous teaching, they created within me an excitement about aeronautics. Their intellectual fervor, clarity of thoughts, and the passion for perfection helped me to launch into a serious study of fluid dynamics modes of compressible medium motion, development of shock waves, shock stall, shockwave drag. Slowly, a great amalgamation of information took place in my mind. The structure features of aeroplanes began to gain new meanings. Biplanes, monoplanes, tailless planes, canard configured planes, delta wing planes, all these began to assume increasing significance for me. The three teachers, all of them authorities in their different field, helped me to mold a composite knowledge. My third and last year at MIT was the year of transition and was to have a great impact on my later life. In those days, a new climate of political enlightenment and industrial effort was sweeping across the country. I had to test my belief in God and see if it could fit into the matrix of scientific thinking. Meanwhile, when I had finished my coursework, I was assigned a project to design a low-level attack aircraft together with 4 other colleagues. I had taken up the responsibility of preparing and drawing the aerodynamic design. My teammates distributed among themselves the tasks of designing the propulsion, structure, control, and instrumentation of the aircraft. One day, my design teacher, Professor Srinivasan, then the director of MIT, reviewed my progress and declared it dismal and disappointing. I offered dozens of excuses for the delay, but none of them impressed Professor Srinivasan. I finally pleaded for a month's time to complete the project. The professor looked at me for some time and said, "Look, young man, today is Friday afternoon. I will give you 3 days' time. If by Monday morning I don't get the configuration drawing, your scholarship will be stopped." I was dumbstruck. The scholarship was my lifeline, and I would be quite helpless if it is withdrawn. I could see no other way but to finish the task as I had been instructed. That night, I remained at the drawing board, skipping dinner. Next morning, I took only an hour's break to freshen up and eat a little food. On Sunday morning, I was very near completion when suddenly I felt someone else's presence in the room. Professor Srinivasan was watching me from a distance. Coming straight from Gymkhana, he was still in his tennis outfit and had dropped in to see my progress. After examining my work, Professor Srinivasan hugged me affectionately and patted my back in appreciation. And he said, "I knew I was putting you under stress and asking you to meet an impossible deadline. I never expected you would perform so well." My most touching memory of MIT is related to Professor Sponder. We were posing for a group photograph as a part of the farewell ritual. All the graduating students had lined up in 3 rows with the professor seated in the front. Suddenly, Professor Sponder got up and looked for me. I was standing in the 3rd row. "Come and sit with me in the front," he said. I was taken aback by the Professor Sponder's invitation. "You're my best student, and hard work will help you bring a great name to your teachers in future." Embarrassed by the praise, but honored by recognition, I sat with Professor Sponder for the photograph. Let the God be your hope, your stay, your guide, and provide the lantern for your feet in your journey into the future, said an introverted genius, bidding me adieu. From MIT, I went to Hindustan Aeronautics Limited at Bangalore as trainee. There I worked on engine overhauling as a part of the team. Hands-on work on aircraft engine overhauling was very educative. At HAL, I worked on overhauling of both piston and turbine engines. The hazy concepts of gas dynamics and diffusion process and the working principle of afterburning came into sharper focus in my mind. The demonstration of the delicate art of beta, the blade angle control by HAL technicians, still lingers in my memory. They had neither studied in major universities nor were they merely implementing what their engineering in charge was suggesting. They had been working hands-on for years, and this had given them something like an intuitive feel of the work. Two alternative opportunities for employment, both close to my long-standing dream of flying, presented themselves before me when I came out of HAL as a graduate aeronautical engineer. One was a career in Air Force, and another one was a job at Directorate of Technical Department and Production, DTD&P Air at Ministry of Defense. I applied for both. The interview calls arrived from both the places almost simultaneously. I was asked to reach Dehradun by Air Force recruitment authorities and Delhi by DTD&P Air. The boy from Coromandel coast took a train to the north of India. My destination was more than 2,000 kilometers away and was to be the first encounter with the vastness of my motherland. This brings us to the end of the part 2. I shall be coming up with the part 3 soon. Please subscribe the channel and write comments. Thanks for watching.